This show is for the sales leader who knows they have a pivotal role in driving outstanding sales results. Getting hired or promoted to manage a sales team is a big accomplishment, but you know you have to work hard to become a great sales leader. You are listening to the Divine Comedy of Sales podcast. Here's your host, coach, and advisor to elite sales leaders from around the world, Matt McDarby.
Hello, and welcome back to the Divine Comedy of Sales podcast. I'm Matt McDarby. You'll have me solo for this episode, and one of the themes for today is listening and learning. What do I mean by that? Listening and learning from the people that I've interviewed over the last several months. I've got kind of a summary, a quick look back, and what are some of the big ideas and lessons that we've heard about from other really successful leaders, and how can you apply them to your reality. So I'm going to take a look back at some of those lessons learned and how they apply. How do we systematize those things? How do we systematize not only the virtues, but effective behavior from a leadership perspective? So we'll talk about that. The other thing that we're listening to is feedback on the podcast, and we're learning what's resonating with people. The great news is the feedback we've received about this show has been resoundingly positive. And when people offer feedback, it's not, hey, Matt, this show sucks. It's, wow, this is really, we're enjoying the content. We love the format. And if you could do more of X and Y and Z, well, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about X and Y and Z and how we're incorporating the elements that appear to be resonating with the folks listening to the show, including you. And spoiler alert, we've got some big things coming, a new name, some new packaging, some guest hosts, which I'm very excited about, some panel style interviews. So we're going to be focused on the same topic: sales leadership, virtuous sales leadership, effective sales leadership, systems thinking. Same topics, but presented in some new and improved ways over the next several months. I'm excited to tell you about that. Let's start with the look back over the last several months. And I want to call out and thank the leaders that have joined me over the last several months. And then I'll give you kind of a quick summary of main lessons. There was a lot of commonality, of course, but there were some very specific and unique points of view. So we heard from people like Shaun Priest, Lacy Buzzelli, Chris Turnley, Matt Goff, Chris DiPatria, Jason Rosenblatt, Richard Smith, Jeff Maycumber, Lori Lash Valencia, and Pat Zantara was our most recent episode. And when I look back at the lessons that they've shared, there are some themes that emerge. And maybe that's the way to attack this first. There were some themes across the board. And again, this is a pretty diverse group of people, different industries, different levels of tenure, different perspectives on leadership. The common thread here was that everybody is currently in a leadership role, whether it's over sales, all of revenue, or over enablement and RevOps. But there were themes that emerged in no particular order. Almost everybody talked in their own way about clarity and decision-making, achieving clarity quickly. That was one of the keynotes from the last episode with Pat Zantara. But also the importance of clear communication to drive alignment, to support effective decision-making. So that, I think, was a recurring theme. The big question is, what do we need to do in our roles to achieve clarity consistently, to arrive at clarity fast, and to make sure that we're making decisions about our business and about our people based on that clarity? So I think we heard versions of that from almost everyone over the last several months. The next big theme was, we'll call it leadership and empowerment. Examples here: applying curiosity, candor in communication, encouraging resilience, bouncing back from adversity. These are just some of the ideas. Like Lori Lash Valencia offered several of those ideas in my interview with her. Jeff Maycumber talked a lot about challenging conventional wisdom and evolving, thinking critically and evolving as a leader, but also helping your people to do the same. Rich Smith talked a lot about leadership through a coaching lens, continuous coaching and team engagement being a kind of a hallmark of his approach as a leader. And in the business he's in today, that's his stock and trade. So what are the traits of great leaders? We've heard a lot about the virtues not over the last several months, but even going back to episode 1, we know what great leadership looks like. We know how great leaders think about their role. And a lot of the conversations over the last several months have just been individual versions of how do I make sure that I'm leading in a way that builds followership, where my people are empowered and enabled to do the job effectively. How can I model effectiveness myself? So those are just some of my key takeaways on leadership and empowerment. Another recurring theme was sort of, trust and team dynamics. How do we build trust with our people? And our people could mean those that are on our teams, but it also could be peers. It could be the people that we report to. But how do we build trust up and down and across throughout our teams? When I talked with Jason Rosenblatt, we talked a lot about building trust. We talked about, through mentorship and mentoring people, but also taking a data-driven approach to understanding what's really going on and demonstrating to people that we've done our homework, which builds our credibility, which is a key positive factor that influences the degree to which our people trust us.
Driving great sales results is hard. Doing it consistently is even harder. There are so many obstacles that can prevent you from becoming the most effective sales leader you can be. Find practical advice you can apply right away by picking up your copy of Matt's book, The Divine Comedy of Sales, at www.divinecomedyofsales.com.
Chris DiPatria talked a lot about the role of frontline managers and how important it is to really plug in. He called it networking, and we were talking about how important it is to really get to know the people in your organization, the people in your teams, because a positive team culture and a positive team dynamic depends greatly on how well we know and understand our people and our ability to build trust with them. Matt Goff talked a lot about lessons he's learned as a leader, but one theme with him specifically was, in order to effectively lead, we have to balance that intuition, that artistic intuition that we have, the art of leadership, with data, with science. And I agree completely with Matt that what we're trying to do ultimately is, we want to lead with the heart. We want to lead virtuously, but we have brains too. And we've got to find a way to lead our people in a way that sort of balances the head and the heart, the art and the science of leadership. So trust and team dynamics, I think, and leading teams, again, a lot of kind of recurring themes there. Not exactly the same language from all of the interviews, but really interesting that people had such clarity on what it takes to build great teams and to build trust within them. Finally, another theme I think that emerged was systems thinking, but serving others and leading virtuously within the context of a system. So here's where I think this all comes together for me. They didn't necessarily intend this at the beginning of the season when I started asking people the question, what are the most important parts of your system? But it's really interesting how when we listen back, we realize what great leaders are doing is systematizing a few things. Systematizing effectiveness and systematizing the virtues, in my view. Chris Turnley talked a great deal about, I guess what we would recognize as servant leadership, of putting others first, putting your people ahead of you, an other-centric approach to leadership. And he has absolutely built that into his system. The way that he diagnoses and addresses performance issues, the way that he serves not only his clients, but his people is a great example of how you can systematize virtuous and effective leadership. Lacy Buzzelli from ADP and Shaun Priest both talked about developing winning systems and building essentially playbooks, right, that are clear and lay out in the clearest possible terms for their sales teams how they need to execute. Execution and people, I think, were Lacy's two main elements of the system, right? Those are big ideas. But knowing how she approaches the role, it's clear to me that what she's saying is, I have a system built around my people, developing them, understanding them, serving them, and my people know how to execute. We've gone to great lengths to help them understand our execution model. And so when I say service, one of the things that we do as leaders is we serve our people well when we communicate clear expectations. We do more than simply explain to them what we're trying to achieve. We help them understand why it's important. And we go into detail, sufficient detail, into how their jobs are to be done and how we will support them as they do their jobs. So when I say service and systems is a theme from the last several months, that's what I mean. In the service of others, our clients, our people, our leaders, our peers, we have to systematize effective behavior. And I think that's some of what we've heard from the folks that I've interviewed over the last several months. The challenge or the opportunity, of course, for you is how do you do it in your environment? So every episode that we've recorded and every episode going forward is going to be focused on how do you take the lessons that I've learned, that the people I'm interviewing have learned, how do you take those and apply them in the context of your role? And how do you either build, if you don't have one, or tune your system so that you can be more consistent in the application of effective behavior, so that you continuously demonstrate virtuous leadership. Why? Well, because it's part of your system. We all have good days and bad days, days when it's easy to lead virtuously, to lead effectively, and days when it's not so easy. We don't have to get into all the reasons for why that would be, but we're human, and we know that it's not easy to lead. It's not easy to lead a sales organization or an enablement organization or an entire revenue generating machine. So with encouragement and some clear lessons, that's how we will go forward. Your task is to lead virtuously and effectively and to build a system that ensures that you do. In order to support you in that effort, we are making some tweaks and improvements and a couple of big changes to the show going forward. So let me share that with you. And I'm very excited to roll out some of these changes over the next several months. And by the late summer, early fall of 2024, the name of this podcast will change. Same feed, you'll be able to find the show in the same location, but we will be changing the name of the show from the Divine Comedy of Sales podcast to the Sales Leaders Operating System podcast. That is simply a reflection of what I've heard from people and the fact that we've landed on something that's really resonating. How do we systematize effective sales leadership? Well, we assemble our own Sales Leaders Operating System. So a lot more to come on the new show, the new title, the new packaging. One of the things that we'll be doing that is different is occasionally I will be joined by a co-host. One of our co-hosts very soon is going to be Steve Gelda from Ignite Selling, a very close strategic partner of mine and for United Sales Resources. Steve and Ignite Selling are a sponsor of the new podcast, as well as United Sales Resources. And I'm excited to have him join. We'll be doing sort of a co-hosted interview format. I'm also going to record a few episodes in a panel style, meaning several interview guests, a few that we've had on the show before, and a few new folks. And we're going to test that format out and see if we can deliver in a concise, efficient sort of way, deliver lessons learned and ideas in a setting where we've got the collective wisdom of several key leaders, several highly effective leaders all at once. I'm excited about that. This show has been an audio-only podcast for the first, 43 episodes. In the next several weeks, we're going to begin recording sessions on video. So our YouTube channel will include not only the audio-only versions of the show, but going forward, you'll be able to see me and the folks I'm interviewing. I'll let you be the judge of whether that's good news or not. but excited to have that video format because YouTube obviously is a great place for us to be and a great way for us to reach new listeners. So I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to the podcast. I commit to you that we're going to continue to improve the show. I'm loving having the opportunity to interview some really smart and effective leaders here and sharing the collective wisdom of the team and being able to reflect on lessons learned and talking about systems thinking. A great deal more of that to come. So please do join me for our next episode. In the meantime, I'm Matt McDarby, host and author of The Divine Comedy of Sales. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye for now.